Hello, how are you? Today I'm going to talk about what the smell of intestinal gas, the famous fart, reveals about your health. Why do some people fart so much? Why does it sometimes smell bad? What can you do to change that? Because sometimes it can even be socially awkward, so stick around until the end because you won't want to miss this. If you love tips on nutrition, health, and fitness, you're going to love this channel. Go ahead, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. I have new videos every day, and you're going to love them. Let's start by talking more about this issue of intestinal gas. I'll quickly explain to you why it happens. Why is it that for some people it's so smelly? And what can we do to try to minimize this problem, which is often embarrassing? Because this issue of gas is just like something I read the other day. It's always a struggle. Either you suffer in silence or you let it out and others suffer. So how can we avoid or minimize this? Actually, passing gas, having intestinal gas is a part of life. It's part of the digestive process. We eat, the food goes in through the mouth, passes into the stomach, is partially digested there, then goes to the intestine, where it's usually well digested and the digestion process is completed. And at that point, some carbohydrates aren't fully digested, so they start to ferment due to the bacteria present there, microorganisms. I'll talk more about that. And the byproduct of this fermentation ends up being the gases they produce, which we have to expel. There's no way to keep that inside because otherwise it causes abdominal pain, bloating. It's normal to produce gas. And there are people who pass gas 15 to 18 times a day. Usually we do it when we go to the bathroom. But there are people who have such a high concentration and production of gas that they really can't hold it in. It causes pain and they need to expel it. And sometimes when they do expel it, the gas is very smelly, very foul, which is even socially unpleasant because even if you sometimes go to the bathroom, I hope everyone does this to avoid embarrassment, but sometimes you went to the bathroom at work and let out a really smelly fart. It's awkward. And for someone who goes in there after, it's uncomfortable. So why does this happen? How can we manage to minimize it? Besides the smell being a big problem, the amount of gas produced is also an issue. In this case for you, because it bloats your stomach, causes pain, and makes you uncomfortable. So talking more about this is very important because it could be related to an unbalanced diet, but it could also be linked to deeper, more serious health issues. The first thing to mention when we talk about foul-smelling gas is intestinal dysbiosis, which is actually an overgrowth of bad bacteria and microorganisms in your digestive tract and a decrease in the good ones. This happens a lot to people who eat very poorly, eat a lot of fast food, people who have taken antibiotics, people with a very unregulated diet where you consume a lot of sugar, a lot of alcohol, a lot of saturated fat, a lot of fried food. You end up having an overgrowth of bad bacteria in your gut. And these bacteria produce a lot of gas, usually those really rotten smelling, very bad, very foul gases. So, to try to reverse this, it's very important that you take care of your gut. The first thing for a healthy gut is probiotics. You should try to add some source of probiotics to your daily routine. There are some yogurts sold that contain lactobacillus, which have a higher amount of probiotics. High quality plain yogurt itself, as long as it's just milk and lactic ferment, is already a natural probiotic. But I think the best of all is kefir, because it has a large number of beneficial colonies for your gut. It also has other properties like protein, and it's excellent for boosting immunity. I have a video here about the 7 best probiotics, and there's an entire playlist about kefir. These tips in the playlist will be right here below for you. If you don't know, the name of the video is here. There's an arrow, just click there. Everything is organized for you to help you out. So, a question that some people have is about using fermented foods when you have gas. They ask if it won't cause even more fermentation if you eat something that's already fermented. No, because it has already been fermented outside of your body. It's a food that has already gone through fermentation, already produced these beneficial bacteria and microorganisms, beneficial yeasts. So it's actually the opposite. It won't necessarily ferment more inside you. But of course, some people may have different tolerances. So if you have any doubts, always consult your nutritionist and remember that this video is for informational purposes only. If you don't know, actually, I even forgot to mention it, I assumed everyone knows about kefir, but I know that's not really the case. So I'll explain it quickly. Kefir is kind of like a yogurt that you make at home. There is milk kefir, water kefir, and I have videos where I talk more about it. I even have a video where I show how I make it because I use kefir daily, and so does my family. So if you want to see how I prepare it, I also have a video here with more details. And there's a really cool video, by the way, that talks about kefir and immunity. Because it's a superfood for immunity, I'll leave the link down below for you as well. The second cause of these smelly gases is usually related to some kind of food intolerance. So, people who are lactose intolerant because it ferments a lot, or those with gluten allergy or sensitivity, or any other food that you might be allergic or more sensitive to, ferment more, stay there longer, and can cause osmotic diarrhea or increased gas production. And these gases are usually very smelly. I have a video here on the channel talking more about gluten and lactose intolerance. I'll leave that down below for you as well. Another detail is excess protein. Scientifically speaking, consuming too much protein won't make you have more gas because protein doesn't ferment, but the main point is that it can change the smell of your fart, the smell of the gases. So sometimes you already had those gases, but you started consuming more protein, whey, albumin, something like that, so the smell gets that strong odor. With egg whites then, it can be complicated sometimes. And an interesting detail is that studies have already shown that an increase in lactose intake can make you produce more gas. And why do I mention this? Because many people consume whey or egg white protein, or even pea protein, which can also cause a lot of gas sometimes, depending on the person, because in this case, there are carbohydrates that can sometimes ferment. They start consuming this with milk, and they weren't used to consuming such a large amount of lactose in their daily routine, but after adding 1 or 2 more servings of milk, fermentation increases, and it becomes a sort of bomb that produces more gas because of the milk, and the gas smells worse because of the protein. So, you need to balance this and see how you can organize it throughout your day. I'm talking about eggs. I just mentioned albumin. Albumin comes from egg whites. It's 100% egg white. And many people report that after taking egg white protein, they experienced a lot of gas with a very strong, really unpleasant smell. That's because albumin is concentrated egg, and eggs in their composition contain methionine and sulfur, which are what cause that bad smell. Once again, it's not going to increase the amount of gas. You would already have that gas, but the smell reaches a whole new level of stinkiness. So, for many people who are more sensitive, this gets much worse. So maybe you should consider using another type of protein. And in that case, try consuming it without a dairy source with water or juice to reduce the production of gas and also the smell of the gas a bit. You can use plant-based milk. I even have several videos here showing how to make almond milk, peanut milk, coconut milk. You can use them because they don't have lactose and there's no problem at all. And some foods are also more fermentable. They have a type of carbohydrate that can ferment more and can actually make you produce more gas. Some classic examples are broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, but sugar also ferments a lot. Foods that are very rich in carbohydrates will ferment more than foods with less carbohydrate. That's why people who follow a low-carb diet usually have less gas. There are people who eat a lot of carbs, like potatoes, bread, so be careful because if you are more sensitive, maybe you should choose foods that have less carbohydrate, that ferment less. There are some people who have so much fermentation and so much gas that it really interferes with their lives, even socially. For many people, this ends up becoming a funny topic, but it's actually quite unpleasant. Maybe the person has irritable bowel syndrome or has many episodes of constipation, which also causes more gas or diarrhea because maybe they have a lactose intolerance. This really causes a lot of discomfort. So in some cases, it might be a good idea for the person to try a FODMAP diet approach. I have a video where I talk more about irritable bowel syndrome here, and I also talk about FODMAP. I'll leave it down below. Remember that the FODMAP diet is meant to be used for a certain period of time with guidance from a nutritionist to identify your allergies and intolerances and then gradually reintroduce other foods. But it is very effective in reducing gas, so I'll also leave it down below in the description for you. It's in the irritable bowel syndrome video. There are also some medications that can cause this gas production, especially antibiotics, and that's because they kill the bacteria you're trying to eliminate due to your infection, but they also kill the good bacteria in your gut, the beneficial bacteria. So in this case, people who take antibiotics or stronger medications that affect the gut flora end up having gas because of this change in the flora and because they develop secondary intestinal dysbiosis. Constipation itself, or being unable to have a bowel movement, can also cause gas, often with a stronger odor, because the longer the food stays there, the more it ferments and the worse the smell gets. In fact, one of the main complaints from people who suffer from constipation is abdominal bloating, precisely because of the presence of gas. Those gases keep building up, the belly keeps getting bigger. So, remember that I have a playlist here on the channel with tips to reduce constipation and recipes for natural, homemade laxatives that can help you. I'll also leave this down below in the description for you. So, what can you do to try to minimize it? I've already given several tips here, but a very important tip is to always drink plenty of water because water will help with intestinal transit, it will hydrate the stool and help expel it. And it will also help reduce some of the problems, like that fermenting carbohydrate in there. So water is always very important. I have a video here with tips on how to add more water to your daily routine or how to drink more water. I'll leave it down below in the description for you. In addition to a playlist of recipes to help reduce bloating, I also have some flavored water recipes that I think you'll like as well. Another tip is to include probiotics, as I mentioned, so you can have a colonization of beneficial bacteria in your gut. So it doesn't necessarily have to be kefir. If you can get it, great. But if not, there are probiotics sold in supermarkets or even at the pharmacy, depending on the degree of dysbiosis you have, and it might be a good idea for you to consume them. Avoid consuming carbonated drinks because if you already have a lot of gas, drinking soda, sparkling water, beer, or anything that already contains gas will make it worse for you. So cut out carbonated drinks from your life to avoid having more gas. I've already mentioned which vegetables ferment more, so maybe in your case, at first, it might be a good idea to leave them out of your diet to try to reduce the smell and production of gas. And little by little, you can reintroduce one or another to see if it's that specific one or if all of them cause you discomfort or not. So take a look at the playlist I'm going to put together here. There's also one about digestion and a healthy gut, which is really cool. I'll leave it down below to help you out. And tell me about your experience with gas. Have you struggled with it a lot? Do you still struggle? What do you do to try to improve it? I'd love to read your comment. Give the video a like because that really helps me out, and share it with anyone who needs it. Let's work together to spread this chain of good, which is exactly what I want here on the channel. See you next time. Bye.